This is an intro to derivatives, learning the basics. We're going to go over the sum product, quotient, and the chain rule. So this is our derivative toolbox. These are 6 things that you should memorize in order to quickly do derivatives. So the first one is we have sum k times x to sum r, and the derivative of that is we're going to pull r out to the front, multiply it, so k times r, and then x r minus 1, where our k and r are going to be constants. Then our next one is k. The derivative of k, which is just going to be some number, is always going to be 0. And then the natural log of x, the derivative of that is just 1 over x, which is just x to the negative 1, if you want to write it that way. E to the x is just always going to be e to the x. And then sine of x, the derivative is cosine x. And then our derivative for cosine x is just going to be negative sine x. So again, these are just useful to know right off the bat, so it's a lot easier and a lot quicker to do your derivatives. Right, so now just to go over some simple examples. So if we have 4 times x to the 5th, and we want the derivative of that, remember we're pulling the 5 out. So we have 4 times 5 x to the 5 minus 1, which is just going to equal 20 x to the 4th. Next, if we have the derivative of 12, we know that any number by itself or any constant by itself is just going to equal 0. So now negative x to the negative 6. Again, we're taking the negative 6, pulling it out front. So that should be negative 1 times negative 6. X to the negative 6 minus 1, which is going to be 6x to the negative 7. And then again, x to the 1/2, we're taking that 1/2, pulling it out front. 1 times 1/2, x to the 1/2 minus 1 is going to be 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. Then a little bit trickier one, but not too bad. So if we have e times x to pi, we pull pi out front. So we have e times pi x to the pi minus 1, and then we can just leave it in that form. So first we have the sum rule. So what the sum rule says is if we have a function such as f plus g, and we want the derivative of that, it is just going to be the derivative of f plus the derivative of g. So an example would be e to the x plus the natural log of x plus cosine x, and if we want the derivative of all of that, so we know that e to the x, the derivative from our toolbox, is just e to the x plus natural log, the derivative is 1 over x, plus the derivative of cosine is just negative sine x. So we have e to the x plus 1 over x minus sine x. And then the next one, we have 4 times x to the 4th plus 10x minus 8. And if we want the derivative of all of that, what we do is, again, we pull the 4 out to the front. So we have 6. We have 4 times 4, x to the 4 minus 1 plus, this would be a 1 here, plus 10 to the plus 10 times 1, x to the 1 minus 1. And then we're going to have the derivative of 8, which we know is just 0. So to simplify it, we have 16 times x to the third plus 10x to the 0, which again is just simplifying, is 16x to the third plus 10. Next is the product rule. So if we have f times g and we want the derivative of that, we take f times the derivative of g plus the derivative of f times g. So going over an example, we have e to the x times cosine x. And with the derivative, so what we can do is we can find our f, which is e to the x, find our g, which is cosine x, find the derivative of f, which we know is e to the x, and the derivative of g, which is just negative sine x. Plug that back into our equation. So we're going to take e to the x times negative sine x plus, oh my heavens, plus e to the x times cosine x. And now if we want to simplify it, we could just do e to the x times negative sine x plus cosine x. Then our next example is going to be the square root of x times sine x. So a different way we can do it is we can do it something called the branch way. So if I just rewrite our equation here, I'm going to branch it off. So I'm going to have f and I'm going to have g. So f is our x, g is our sine x. Then we just pull the derivative. So we know that we know the square root of x is just x to the 1/2. And since we've already done it in the video, it's 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. And then for sine of x, it is just going to be cosine. Now that we have that, what we're going to do is just cross them. So what we get would be the square root of x multiplied by cosine x plus 1/2 x to the negative 1/2 multiplied by sine of x, and then that would be our answer. Then we have the quotient rule. So if you have f over g, that's going to equal g times the derivative of f minus f times the derivative of g all over g squared. So if we have sine of x over x to the 4th, again, we're going to find our f, which is going to be sine of x, find our g, which is going to be x to the 4th, our derivative of f, is just going to be cosine x. And our derivative of g, remember we're pulling 4 out to the front, so it's going to be 4 times x to the 4 minus 1, which is just going to be to the 3rd. All right, now we're going to plug in our equations. So we have x to the 4th times cosine x minus sine x 4x to the 3rd, all over x to the 4th. Now we can do some simplification. So we have x to the 4th, cosine x minus 4x to the 3rd, sine x all over x to the 8th. We can pull out an x to the 3rd from both equations. We get x times cosine x minus 4 sine x, again all over x to the 8th. And then we can even simplify it one more time. Some of our x's will cancel. So we have x to the cosine x minus 4 sine x all over x to the 5th. So that would be our final answer. And then the next one we have is going to be cosine x over x. So again, this one we're going to do the branch. So if we have cosine x over x, We need to branch it off. We need to have an f and we need to have a g. So our f is going to be cosine x, which is negative sine x. And then our g is going to be x, which if we do the derivative of x is just going to be 1. So now plugging our numbers in. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply, but the arrows are going to be a little different this time because you have to have in a specific order. So we have x multiplied by negative sine x minus cosine x times 1 all over x to the second, which if we simplify, we get x times negative sine x minus cosine x all over x squared. And that would be our final answer. The last one we're going to talk about is the function composition rule, also known as the chain rule. So what we have is we have some function within a function and we want the derivative of that. So we are going to take the derivative of f with g within f, and then we are going to multiply that by the derivative of g. So an example, so we're going to have the natural log of cosine x. Want the derivative, so we're first going to find our f, which is going to be ln of x. We're going to find our g, which is going to be cosine of x. The derivative of f is just 1 over x, and our derivative of g is negative sine x. So what we're going to have is we're going to have 1 over, so we have to plug in our x, which is just our g. So 1 over cosine x multiplied by negative sine x, which is going to give us negative sine x over cosine x, which is also equal to the negative of tangent x. Next, we have sine of 4x, and if we want the derivative, we're going to do the branch. So we're going to have our f and our g. So our f is going to be, I'm going to just put u as a placeholder, sine of u. Our g is going to be 4x. Derivative of sine u is just going to be cosine u, and our derivative of 4x is going to be 4. Then with our arrows, we take our 4x, plug it into u, and then we're going to multiply it by 4. So we get cosine 4x times 4, which is 4 cosine 4x. This is the end of our derivative intro. Come back for our derivative applications in the next video.